Greetings and salutations, this is Brian from Mechbladestudios. We're back in visual novel land this time around, specifically PixelFade's latest effort, a fantasy adventure entitled Crystalline. Crystalline is a story about a guy that gets transported to a fantasy world called Terra, and he has to work with people he meets along the way to find a way back home. It was officially released on August 22nd, 2018, and I likely would have gotten to this one much more quickly if Darling in the Franxx wasn't so emotionally draining to work on. I have to stress officially because apparently this visual novel was released in parts through early access on Steam starting on July 27th, 2017. Now, despite what some game awards might say, early access games, while worth discussing and playing, are not final products. As such, I have a rule that I do not review anything that's under early access, in beta form, or any similar incomplete condition. Even with shows, I try to wait for a season to wrap before I consider reviewing it because just because a show starts out strong, it can always spiral towards the end. Back to Crystalline, it was created by PixelFade Studios, the makers of Ace Academy. The presentation for this game is light years ahead of Ace Academy. Instead of static sprites that change facial expressions, all characters other than yourself are animated using Live 2D, as seen in the controversial My Castle portions of Fire Emblem Fates. It allows the characters to move, change expressions in real time, and talk. Obviously, because animating characters for a 20-hour game on a crowdfunding budget takes time and money, only the leads and one additional character get this treatment. Other characters either don't show up on screen at all, which is an improvement over shadow people, or have the more traditional still expressions appear on the corner of the screen. The one oddity about this is that your pet slime called a Pongo, who accompanies you through your whole journey, who gets a voice actor credit before the lead, doesn't appear on screen outside of the CGs despite an easy quarter approach being available. Full voice acting returns with mostly recognizable names. Leanna Dawn's voiced by Amanda Lee, Zack Spade by Nathan Sharp, Amelia Estelle by Natalie Hoover, Cara Noir by Amber Lee Connors, and the Pongos voiced by Angela Lorenzana. Well, that makes a lot of scenes much more awkward. Most of them put in stellar performances and really brought the characters to life, even if the writing doesn't always help. The designs are nice, but probably not what I'd call original. The world design is also very neat, but inconsistently explained. Crystals replace electricity in this world, another concept that may or may not be original. But given how it has crystal power trained, but little to no other equivalent technology to ours, is beyond odd. Other than that, crystals are primarily used to channel magic, often through these neat gauntlets called manipulators, at least on the character models that bother to wear them. The soundtrack is really cool, but I hesitate to say it really fits. The synths and guitars feel more at home in Ace Academy than in a fantasy environment. They're pretty good songs, just not great in terms of context. The opening theme by Amanda Lee is fantastic. Like Ace Academy, there's actual gameplay sprinkled in between the usual reading, but instead of just picking lines within 5 seconds, various fights and temple trials take the form of clicking symbols in order, clicking symbols as they appear, or clicking symbols if they match one at the bottom. Compared to actual games, it's still limited, but it's still quite impressive for a visual novel. The way the game handles saves and logs has been changed. Sadly, you can't cheat by rewinding conversations with the scroll wheel, but you can at least listen to voice lines again. The number of saves you can have has been significantly decreased, making getting every ending or even just seeing reactions to funny choices more difficult, especially since you can't quick save on the choice screen. Despite all the technical advancement, the writing is unfortunately the weak point of Crystalline, which is worrying because that's the most important part of a visual novel. The whole story follows a predictable formula. You and your group travel for a while, arrive at a town looking for information about one of the elemental temples, get involved in a side quest, head to the temple, complete a trial, absorb energy from one of the elemental spirits, try to open a portal home, fail to do so, and then head to the next temple. You get your usual anime tropes and sequences, but they at least have an interesting twist or two so they don't come off as complete retreads. Like Ace Academy though, the ending just sort of happens before you know it, though it is better telegraphed. You can actually get 7 possible endings. To be as vague as possible about it, the true ending may not be the most perfect or conclusive, but I thought the final CG you get tells you all you want. Close enough is how I'd put it. The biggest double-edged sword of the game is how relationships are handled. You only get one romanceable option, Leanna, but said relationship is handled organically and realistically, and brutally so for the latter. These scenes are the highlights of the story, but it's a shame how we've gone from a game that originally only offered 2 routes but expanded to 4, to a game that only offers 1. Leanna herself may not be the most interesting character in the world, but let's put it this way. I'm not into the quirky types. Leanna's fine by me. Most of the characters have at least one extra twist to them to make them interesting, even if their backstories are cliché. Leanna gets easily flustered despite her composure, Kara likes archaeology despite her appearance and flirtatiousness, and even local edgelord Zack is played for laughs most of the time, and it's worth restating that the voice acting really helps to sell them.
It's not like that. I mean, it doesn't always look this way. When I last left, I didn't realize it'd be such a long time before I returned.
Oh, don't get me wrong, you're cute, but I'm not sure you've got the personality needed for this type of thing.
Actually, in that last illusion, I didn't see a swan. I saw a rabbit!
The only character that gets sort of grating is Amelia, being a monotone exposition bot for 98% of her on-screen presence. My Gears operating system had more emotion than she does. The Pongo has more emotion than she does. Granted, she has some funny lines, but it's still read in that same flat, droning voice. Besides, nothing beats this.
Hey there, sailor.
For some reason, Amelia also seems to be the one to have the most voice line script discrepancies, a problem shared with Ace Academy.
This is written in ancient guidance script, a language of which I have studied, but of which I am not fluent.
The other thing that bugs me is the lack of choices regarding your character. Even though the skill set options of Ace Academy didn't affect the story that much, it's still a shame you can't, say, determine whether you specialize in magic or sword fighting, decide what element you start with, or pick the strong, intelligent, or intuitive options that Ace Academy provided. Something I neglected to mention in Ace Academy was that the story occasionally stops to make very out-of-place references, culminating in the anime convention from Cowrie's Root advertising this game, having Amanda Lee, who voices side character named May, speak at a panel, and then have the creator of the damn game talk at a panel about making visual novels. Crystalline does the same thing, but never quite to the extent of that last example. References aren't inherently bad, there are quite a few amusing ones here, but the better ones seem to fit the fantasy genre. But then you have Professor Xavier, Broodman, and Breaking Bad references. Just why? The story itself isn't bad, just unimpressive, lacking deep lore beyond a simple backstory, new and creative characters, though they are fun, or even the spontaneity of its predecessor. Overall, I give Crystalline a 7 out of 10. Despite the fantastic improvements in presentation, the lack of choices and thin plot unfortunately drag it down. The characters are enjoyable, but nothing new. It's the Ruby Volume 2 of visual novels. Not bad, but could be so much better. I enjoyed the game, but not as much as I could have. If you liked Ace Academy, you'll like Crystalline, but if you had to pick one, go with the former. So that's it for me for now. What do you guys think? Have you played Crystalline? Which ending did you get? Let me know in the comments. If you enjoyed this review, leave a like and subscribe for more reviews of anime, video games, and movies. Also, hit that bell icon so you know exactly when a new video goes up. Thanks for watching. This is Brian from Mechbladestudios, signing off.